In the distant future, humanity had achieved what had once been considered impossible: the ability to traverse the stars. Generations of explorers and scientists had come together to build the Hyperion, a colossal ship designed for intergalactic exploration. Its mission was simple yet profound: to answer one of humanity's oldest questions: are we alone in the universe? Captain Eva Hargrove stood on the command deck of the Hyperion, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the distant galaxies. 1,000 stars gleamed like fireflies, but one star system in the neighboring Andromeda galaxy caught her attention. It was an anomaly, a pulsating signal of unknown origin. For decades, humanity had listened to the void of space, but this signal was different, structured, repeating, and far more complex than anything they'd ever detected before. The crew of the Hyperion was made up of the brightest minds humanity had to offer. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, and philosophers were all aboard, each person driven by the same burning desire to answer the question that had haunted humanity for centuries: is there life out there, beyond Earth? Eva paced the bridge as the signal grew louder, more distinct. It had been years since the first whispers of alien signals were discovered, but this was the first that could not be dismissed as random noise. As the crew worked tirelessly to triangulate its source, theories began to emerge. The ship's AI, Helios, had already started analyzing the signal for patterns. Theories began to flood in. Was it a beacon, a distress call, or perhaps the first step toward contact? "We're getting closer, Captain," said Dr. Rafi Malik, the ship's lead scientist, his voice crackling through the intercom. "The signal's frequency is unlike anything we've encountered before. It's organized, artificial. This could be a message." Eva felt her pulse quicken. There were many theories about what they might find out there in the stars. Some were hopeful, predicting advanced civilizations that could offer unimaginable technologies. Others were darker, believing that any life beyond Earth could be hostile, a threat to the fragile peace humanity had worked so hard to maintain. Still others speculated that if any life existed, it would be so different from what humans understood that communication or coexistence might be impossible. Helios displayed an image of the star system on the large monitor, zooming in on the third planet. It appeared barren, lifeless, with vast stretches of rocky terrain and swirling storms. But it wasn't the planet that had caught their attention. It was the anomaly, the signal emanating from deep within its core. "We're getting a high-energy burst, Captain," Helios announced. "It's coming from an underground structure on the planet's surface." Eva's heart raced. The implications were staggering. If this signal was indeed from an intelligent species, then humanity was on the cusp of one of the greatest discoveries in history. But something nagged at her, a feeling in the pit of her stomach that they might not be prepared for what they were about to find. "Prepare the crew for landing," Eva ordered. "We're going down." The ship descended through the clouds of the alien world, the rocky surface below growing ever larger. The atmosphere was thin, the air a bitter cold that made the crew's suits essential. But there was no mistaking it, they had arrived. The Hyperion's landing gears touched down on the cracked Earth, and for the first time in history humans were standing on another world in a distant galaxy. As the crew disembarked, a sense of unease crept over Eva. The air was still, the landscape desolate. There was no sign of life. Yet, the signal persisted, a rhythmic pulse coming from deep beneath the surface. Whatever it was waiting. Eva led the way, her breath steady despite the growing tension. The team set off toward the coordinates Helios had provided. They passed through ancient-looking ruins, half buried in the sand, as though a long-forgotten civilization had once lived here, or perhaps something more sinister had left its mark. The closer they got to the source of the signal, the more the ground seemed to hum with energy. Eva could feel it in her bones. Whatever lay ahead, it was calling to them. And as they neared the entrance of a massive underground structure, the lights inside flickered to life, as if something had sensed their arrival. The hum in the ground grew louder as Captain Eva Hargrove and her crew approached the entrance of the underground structure. A chill ran down her spine, not from the cold of the barren world, but from a primal feeling, a sensation that they were not alone. The walls of the structure seemed to pulse with an energy that was both alien and familiar, like the heartbeat of some forgotten civilization. Dr. Rafi Malik, the lead scientist, was the first to speak, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and caution. "This structure, it's far too advanced to be anything from this planet's history. It could predate everything we know about this galaxy." His eyes gleamed with excitement as he examined the carvings etched into the stone walls, which seemed to shimmer with an iridescent glow under the light of their suits. "We've never seen anything like this," said Lieutenant Commander Zara Lee, the ship's tactical officer, scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. This doesn't just look old, it looks purposeful. Like it was built for something, or someone. Eva nodded but remained focused on the entrance. The opening was large, its edges smooth and well-defined, as though it had been carved from the rock itself by some advanced technology. The signal was growing stronger now, a rhythmic pulse reverberating in the air. It beckoned them forward. "We go in," Eva commanded, her voice steady. She knew that this discovery could change everything. The potential to make contact with an advanced alien civilization was the stuff of humanity's wildest dreams, but she could also feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. They were stepping into a world that had been abandoned, forgotten, or perhaps purposely hidden from time. The team entered the structure, their footsteps echoing in the hollow corridors. The air inside was thick with dust, but it was warmer than the outside world, and the temperature was regulated by unseen mechanisms. The walls seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if the building itself were alive, reacting to their presence. The deeper they went, the more they could feel the weight of history pressing on them. As they ventured further into the heart of the structure, they found a central chamber, a vast room that stretched far above them. The floor was lined with intricate patterns, and in the center stood an enormous console of sorts, its surface covered in alien symbols that no human had ever seen. It looked ancient, yet strangely intact, as if untouched by the passage of time. Helios, the ship's AI, spoke through their comms. "The console is active. I am receiving transmissions, but they are heavily encrypted. There's a possibility we could decrypt them, but it may take time." "We'll try anyway," Eva said, stepping toward the console. She could feel the presence of something ancient, something powerful, in the air around her. This was no ordinary structure. It was a message, a legacy, a monument to something long gone, but perhaps still watching. Dr. Malik moved closer, his hands hovering over the symbols as if sensing a connection. "These markings, they're not just a language. They're a map, a guide. And I believe it's leading us to something, or someone." Suddenly, the floor beneath them began to tremble. A low rumble, like the growl of some great beast stirring to life, echoed through the chamber. The walls around them flickered, and the alien symbols began to glow with an intense light. "Something's happening," Lieutenant Lee said, her voice tight with alarm. "The entire structure is coming online. It's activating." Before anyone could respond, a piercing beam of light shot up from the center of the console, illuminating the room in an otherworldly glow. The air crackled with energy, and for a moment, the crew could see what lay hidden beneath the surface of this world. In the center of the beam, floating in a vast, suspended containment field, was an object, a sphere of shimmering energy. It was almost too beautiful to comprehend, its surface constantly shifting, like a liquid mirror reflecting the unknown. Dr. Malik gasped. That is what's been sending the signal. It's a power source, but it's unlike anything we've ever seen. It's a living machine, a neural interface perhaps. Whoever or whatever built this had mastery over energy we can barely understand, but the beam was not just a beacon. It was a call. From deep within the structure, a low rumble reverberated through the chamber. It was coming from all directions, as if the very foundations of the place were awakening. And then, out of the darkness, figures began to materialize. They were not human. Their forms were semi-translucent, their bodies shifting between states of solidity and energy, like living shadows drawn from the very fabric of space itself. There were dozens of them, silent and motionless, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. The crew stood frozen, their breath caught in their throats. These beings had waited for millennia, but for what? And now they were here. The alien presence was no longer a theory. They had found what they were searching for, but the real question remained: what did these beings want with humanity? The silence in the chamber was deafening. The alien figures, ethereal and shifting like holograms, floated in place, their glowing eyes fixed on the crew. The air felt thick, charged with an energy that hummed in every cell of Eva Hargrove's body. The beam of light continued to pulse from the central console, casting long shadows across the room, while the shimmering sphere remained suspended in the heart of the chamber, its energy growing stronger. For a long moment, no one moved. The crew was locked in place, unsure of what to do next. The alien figures remained motionless, their forms almost imperceptible, like beings made of pure energy woven into humanoid shapes. Eva's heart raced. They had found them, not just any life, but something entirely different from anything they had ever imagined. It was not organic, not like the plants or animals of Earth. These entities seemed to exist on a different plane, their bodies flickering between solid matter and energy, as though their form was only temporary, a vessel for something far more ancient and powerful. Helios, can you make contact? Eva asked, her voice calm despite the uncertainty that gnawed at her. Negative, Captain, came the AI's response, its voice flat but matter-of-fact. I am unable to interface with the beings. Their energy signature is too complex. It doesn't follow any known patterns of communication or technology. The words too complex echoed in Eva's mind. They were dealing with something that defied all human understanding. For a moment, the team stood frozen in a standoff of sorts, humans and these beings from another world, neither willing nor able to make the first move. Dr. Rafi Malik stepped forward cautiously, his scientific curiosity outweighing his wariness. They're not threatening us. They haven't moved to attack. I think they're waiting for something. His voice was filled with wonder as he observed the shimmering figures. They must have been in stasis for centuries, maybe millennia. The question is, what has awakened them? A tremor passed through the floor as if the structure itself was shifting, rearranging in response to their presence. The alien figures, still unmoving, began to emit faint harmonic frequencies, almost like a low hum vibrating the air. It was a sound that seemed to resonate in the depths of their minds, too perfect to be anything but intentional. Then a soft voice filled the room, but it was not spoken aloud. Asterisk, you have come? Asterisk. The words were not in any language the crew understood, yet they felt them deep in their bones. It wasn't speech in the traditional sense. It was more like a direct communication to their minds, an impression of meaning wrapped in pure sensation. Eva felt the voice touch her thoughts, a strange mixture of warmth and coldness, an ancient presence, timeless and infinite. The voice continued. Asterisk, for eons we have waited. Your kind is different. Asterisk. The crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to respond. They were standing before a species whose concept of time, energy and existence was beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed. Yet, somehow they seemed to be speaking directly to them, acknowledging their presence as though they had been expected. Eva took a deep breath, steadying herself. Who are you? She asked, her voice strong but filled with uncertainty. She was speaking to them directly, though she knew they might understand her without the need for words. The response came again, this time clearer, and accompanied by flashes of images in her mind. A vast galaxy filled with stars, countless worlds, civilizations rising and falling in the blink of time. Then the images shifted, and there, in the dark, was the sphere, glowing at the heart of it all. We are the keepers, the voice responded, asterisk, guardians of knowledge. We have seen the rise and fall of many, but none as young, as fragile as you. You are but a seed waiting to grow, to understand, to transcend. Asterisk. Eva's thoughts swirled as the weight of their words settled over her. The keepers. Guardians of knowledge. This was not just an encounter with a species. This was the discovery of something much greater. These beings had watched the cosmos evolve, and now they had chosen to make contact with humanity. But why? Transcend? What do you mean by that? Eva asked, her voice barely more than a whisper, afraid that speaking too loudly might break the fragile connection. Your species is on the cusp of a great change, the voice intoned. Asterisk, you seek answers in the stars, but you do not yet know the cost of the truth. The galaxy is vast, filled with dangers and wonders. You are not alone. But not all who live in the stars are benevolent. Some will offer you knowledge, but others will seek to use you, to bend you. Will you rise above them? Will you survive? Asterisk. The voice paused, as if giving Eva a moment to absorb the weight of its words. The air in the chamber seemed to thicken, and the alien figures, if they were even truly figures, flickered with increasing intensity. The glowing sphere pulsed in time with the heartbeat of the room, as though it were alive, waiting for them to make the next move. Eva's mind raced. This was more than a discovery of an alien species. It was a challenge, a test. The keepers were offering something: knowledge, power, understanding. But it came with a warning, a promise of dangers that humanity could scarcely comprehend. How can we prepare? Eva asked, her voice steady despite the storm of questions in her mind. What must we do? Asterisk, grow. Learn. Evolve. Asterisk, the voice responded cryptically. Asterisk, you are not yet ready, but you will be. In time. If you choose to walk this path. Asterisk. The light in the chamber brightened, almost blinding as the keeper's presence seemed to intensify. And then, just as suddenly, the energy in the room shifted, and the beings began to fade, their forms dissipating like smoke on the wind. Asterisk, we will watch. Asterisk, the voice echoed one last time. Asterisk, when the time is right, we will guide you. But be warned, not all who seek the truth are prepared to face it. Asterisk. And just like that, the chamber fell silent once again. The figures were gone. The beam of light dimmed. And in the stillness, the crew was left to process what had just transpired. They had come seeking life in the stars, and they had found something far greater than they had ever imagined. Now, the question was no longer if humanity was ready, but how it would respond to the challenge that had been set before them. The eerie silence that followed the departure of the keepers was oppressive. The crew of the Hyperion stood frozen in the chamber, the weight of their encounter heavy in the air. Captain Eva Hargrove stood at the center, her mind still reeling from the cryptic message they had received. The presence of the keepers, those ancient beings, had left her both awestruck and unsettled. In the wake of the encounter, the first question on everyone's mind was what now? They had been given a warning, a challenge, and a vision of something far greater than themselves. The keepers had shown them their potential, but they had also cautioned that the galaxy was filled with dangers beyond comprehension. Captain, Dr. Rafi Malik said, his voice breaking the heavy silence. We need to analyze the data we've gathered. The signal, the sphere, the keepers themselves, it's all far more complex than we ever imagined. I don't even know where to start. Eva turned toward him, nodding. She understood. This was beyond just the exploration of new life. It was the discovery of a truth that could reshape humanity's entire place in the cosmos. We start with what we know, Eva replied. We've been given a glimpse of something beyond the stars, beyond the boundaries of human understanding. The keepers said we are but a seed waiting to grow. If that's true, then this is only the beginning. The crew moved quickly, collecting data from every angle. Helios, the ship's AI, worked in overdrive, deciphering the encrypted transmissions they had captured. Despite its immense computational abilities, even Helios was stumped by the complexity of the information. The keepers had left behind no clear instructions, only fragmented glimpses into their own ancient knowledge, and hints of what might lie ahead. Eva gathered her senior officers and scientists in the briefing room to discuss their next move. The tension in the room was palpable. The discovery was both exhilarating and terrifying. They had encountered life beyond Earth, but with it had come the undeniable sense that humanity was standing at the precipice of something far more profound than they had expected. We need to understand what the keepers meant, Eva said as she addressed the group. They spoke of a great change. We need to determine if this is an opportunity or a warning. This knowledge they're offering us, we have to be prepared for it. Captain, said Lieutenant Commander Zara Lee, her voice sharp with concern, the keepers said that not everyone who seeks the truth is prepared to face it. What if we aren't ready for what comes next? What if we're not equipped to deal with the forces we're about to awaken? Eva met her gaze, feeling the weight of the question. I don't have all the answers, Zara. But we have to try. Humanity has always reached for the stars, and now that we've found something, someone, out there, we can't back away. We have to move forward. Dr. Malik spoke again, his hands hovering over the holographic display of the sphere. There's something else, Captain. The sphere, it's unlike any power source we've ever encountered. But I think it's more than just a source of energy. I believe it's a key. It could be the missing piece of a puzzle that spans the entire galaxy. The crew leaned in, their attention riveted on Malik's words. A key to what? Eva asked. To knowledge. To ascension, perhaps, Malik replied, his voice filled with a mix of reverence and uncertainty. The keeper spoke of transcendence, but that doesn't mean just evolution in a biological sense. It could refer to something much deeper. A form of enlightenment, or perhaps a technology far beyond anything we can currently comprehend. This sphere might be the focal point of that. Zara, ever the pragmatist, crossed her arms. And what if the keepers are wrong? What if humanity isn't ready for that? We've barely scratched the surface of space travel. What if we're opening a door that can never be closed? Eva knew the risks. The possibilities were as vast and unknown as the stars themselves. But her resolve remained unshaken. We're already here, Zara. And we can't turn back. The galaxy is calling to us. The keepers have chosen humanity, or at least, allowed us to come this far. We have to honor that choice. The meeting continued, but the direction of their journey had already been set. The next step was clear. They would continue their investigation into the keeper's message and the mysterious sphere. But there was another equally important task at hand, to prepare for the unknown challenges that lay ahead. Whether it was knowledge, power, or a warning, they had to be ready for whatever came next. As the meeting came to a close, Eva returned to the command deck. The Hyperion was still stationed above the alien planet, the glowing sphere a constant reminder of the monumental discovery they had made. But even as the excitement swelled, a sense of unease lingered in Eva's chest. They were not the first to find this place, and the keepers had made it clear that not all who sought the truth were worthy. As she gazed out at the distant stars, Eva knew they were about to embark on a journey that would change everything. But the question remained: would humanity rise to meet the challenges ahead, or would they be overwhelmed by forces far beyond their control? Before she could answer that question, an alert from Helios cut through her thoughts. "Captain, we've detected an incoming vessel. It's not human." The hairs on the back of Eva's neck stood on end. It wasn't just a call to adventure anymore. Something had noticed them, and whatever it was coming for them. The tension in the control room was thick as Captain Eva Hargrove stared at the readout flashing on the holographic display. A small, unidentified vessel was approaching the Hyperion's position, its trajectory indicating it was heading directly for them. It was unlike any craft the crew had ever seen. Its shape was angular, asymmetrical, and it emitted a faint energy signature that seemed to ripple in and out of normal space. "Helios, what can you tell us about the vessel?" Eva asked, her voice steady despite the knot of apprehension in her stomach. "Scans indicate no human origin," Helios responded, its mechanical voice calm and matter-of-fact. "The ship's structure appears to be made of materials not found in our database. Energy signatures suggest it is capable of faster-than-light travel, but it is not using conventional propulsion methods." "Great," muttered Lieutenant Commander Zara Lee, clearly on edge. "So we're about to get a visit from an alien ship with tech we can't even begin to understand." "Stay sharp," Eva said. "We don't know whether this is a diplomatic mission or a hostile approach. We're not making any assumptions just yet." The team exchanged wary glances. The encounter with the keepers had already shaken them to their core. But now the reality of it was hitting harder than ever. They were not alone in the stars, and the galaxy was not a peaceful place. "Prepare for communication," Eva ordered, her mind racing. "Helios, open a channel. Let's see if we can establish contact." There was a brief moment of silence, and then the view screen flickered to life. The alien vessel appeared in the viewport, a sleek and ominous shape moving steadily toward them. A soft hum filled the air as the energy field around the ship fluctuated with increasing intensity. Something about the way it moved felt almost predatory, like it was aware of their every move. Just as Eva was about to speak, the communication system pinged. A voice, unlike any they had heard before, filled the room. It was a deep, resonant tone, and the words were unrecognizable, though the crew could feel the weight of the meaning behind them. It was not speech in the conventional sense but more like a message directly to their minds, filled with urgency and intent. "I am Oranath of the Suriath," the voice rang out, strong and filled with power. "You have awakened the keepers. Their warning is not a simple suggestion. You are not prepared for what lies ahead." Eva's heart skipped a beat. The Suriath? She had never heard of them. A species, a faction? Were they allies or adversaries? There was only one thing she knew for certain. They had not come to greet them with friendly intent. "Who are you?" Eva responded, her voice steady. "Why have you come?" A sharp laugh, cold and hollow, echoed through the communication system. "You are in far more danger than you realize, Captain Hargrove. The Keeper's knowledge is not to be handed out lightly. You believe you are ready to unlock the mysteries of the stars, but you are nothing more than children stumbling in the dark. You cannot fathom the forces at play." Zara's hand hovered over her weapon, her eyes scanning the view screen. "We can't just sit here and let them talk down to us. We don't know what they're capable of." Eva shook her head, her expression hardening. "We need answers, not conflict. Let's see what they want. Maybe we can convince them to share their knowledge, or at the very least, prevent a confrontation." The voice of Oranath came again, this time accompanied by a disturbing hum that seemed to vibrate within the walls of the Hyperion. "You do not have the luxury of convincing anyone. The Keepers are not your allies. They have left this world to rot for a reason, and now you have uncovered their secrets. Do you understand the consequences of your actions?" Eva stood tall, her resolve firm. "We understand the risks. But we won't back down from this. If you're here to warn us, then tell us what's coming. If you're here to stop us, then know this: humanity doesn't back down easily." Oranath's voice softened slightly, though it was still filled with an unsettling calm. "Then you shall see the consequences firsthand. The Keeper's knowledge is not yours to command. You are not ready for what lies beyond this world, and yet you will learn the truth of it. Your species will either rise or you will fall. And we will be there to ensure you do not go too far." Eva felt a sudden pressure in her chest, as if the very air around her had thickened with tension. The Suriath were not just a distant race. They were a force, a presence that held the keys to unimaginable power, and they did not want humanity to have access to the knowledge of the Keepers. The view screen flickered, and for a brief moment, Eva thought the alien ship would depart. But instead, the vessel's energy signature flared brightly, and a burst of light shot out from its core, striking the Hyperion with a violent jolt. The ship's hull groaned under the force and alarms blared across the command deck. "We're being targeted," Zara shouted, gripping the console to steady herself. "Shields are holding, but we've sustained damage." "Helios, plot an evasive course," Eva ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We need to get clear of their weapon range. They're not here to negotiate." Helios quickly adjusted the ship's trajectory, the Hyperion lurching as it shifted direction. The Suriath vessel seemed to hover, waiting as if testing the Hyperion's defenses. "They're not going to let us go easily," Lieutenant Lee said grimly, her fingers hovering over her weapons console. "If we don't make contact with the Keeper's sphere soon, this will escalate quickly." "Agreed," Eva said, her mind already racing through potential strategies. The Keepers had warned them of threats in the galaxy, but the Suriath were something entirely different. They were ancient, powerful, and, from what she could infer from their words, unwilling to let humanity challenge their understanding of the stars. The looming question now was whether the Keepers would intervene, or if humanity would have to face the consequences of this encounter alone. "Get to the sphere," Eva commanded. "If there's anything there that can help us, we need it now. We can't afford to wait any longer." The crew hurriedly began to move, the urgency of their situation setting in. Eva glanced out the viewport once more, watching the alien ship's silhouette against the backdrop of the stars. The future of humanity was teetering on the edge of something vast, unknown, and terrifying, and they had just awakened a force that might destroy them before they could even fully understand it. But there was no turning back now. The Hyperion raced through the vast expanse of space, its engines straining under the pressure of the evasive maneuvers ordered by Captain Eva Hargrove. The Suriath vessel loomed ominously behind them, maintaining a steady pace as if the alien ship knew that time was on its side. The crew of the Hyperion worked feverishly to stabilize the ship's systems, and yet the atmosphere aboard the vessel felt heavy with the impending threat. Eva stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the view screen. The energy pulse from the Suriath ship had left deep gouges in the ship's shields, and they were now operating at a fraction of their normal strength. The Keeper's sphere, the enigmatic object they had discovered in the ancient ruins, was their only hope. If they could get to it, maybe they could unlock the power that could defend them. But time was running out. The Suriath wouldn't wait forever. "Helios," Eva said, her voice calm but tight with urgency. "How long until we reach the sphere's location?" "Approximately 6 minutes, Captain," Helios responded. "However, our speed is being hindered by the damage to the hull. The Suriath vessel is closing in fast." Eva turned to her team, their faces tense with fear and anticipation. The ship was already on a collision course with the spherical chamber that had once housed the Keepers. It had to hold some key, some power that could change the course of their fight. But what if it didn't? What if the Suriath were right, that humanity wasn't ready for what lay within? "We don't have a choice," Eva said firmly. "We push forward. The Keepers said we were a seed waiting to grow. Well, this is our moment to prove that we can rise. We take what we can from the sphere and figure out how to fight back." Just as Eva finished speaking, a violent tremor rattled the ship, and the lights flickered. The Suriath had fired again. This time their attack was more precise, aimed directly at the Hyperion's core engines. Sparks flew from the control panels, and alarms blared through the ship as the crew scrambled to stabilize the systems. "Status?" Eva barked. "We've lost secondary propulsion systems," Lieutenant Commander Zara Lee reported. "But our primary engines are still functional." "Barely. We've got about 3 minutes before we're dead in the water, Captain." Eva's jaw clenched. They were running out of time. "Helios," she said, her mind racing, "can we access any of the Keeper technology in the sphere from a distance? Any form of defense we can use to hold off the Suriath?" "I am attempting to interface with the sphere, Captain, but it is rejecting all attempts. The technology is highly complex and seems to be designed to be accessed only by organic life forms," Helios replied. Eva's mind flashed back to the alien figures she had seen earlier in the Keeper's chamber. The beings had warned them of the dangers they would face, but they had also seemed reluctant. Had the Keepers anticipated this? Had they known someone would come for them? Or was this just another test, part of their mysterious challenge? "Increase speed," Eva commanded, determination rising. "I want us to be on top of the sphere's location before we lose power." With the Suriath ship closing in and no other option left, the Hyperion pushed forward faster than it ever had. But even as they neared the coordinates, The bridge crew could feel the ominous presence of the Suriath behind them, almost as though the alien ship was closing in on them from every direction. Suddenly the entire ship lurched as another blast shook it to its core. The lights went out completely, leaving only the glow of emergency beacons. The ship was now drifting, powerless, at the mercy of the Suriath. All systems failing, Helios reported, its voice distorted. We are in critical condition. The Suriath will be upon us in less than a minute. Eva's heart pounded in her chest. But then, just as she thought they were finished, something changed. The chamber ahead, the one holding the Keeper's sphere, began to glow brighter and brighter, until it lit up the entire ship. The sphere's energy surged outward, like a tidal wave of light and power. It wrapped around the Hyperion, enveloping the ship, and suddenly the ship was no longer drifting. It was moving again, but not by any propulsion they understood. The energy from the sphere had somehow interfaced with the ship, pulling it forward at an unnatural speed. What's happening? Zara shouted, her voice tinged with awe and fear. I don't know, Eva said, staring in disbelief at the console as the ship surged ahead, seemingly powered by nothing but the sheer force of the sphere itself. But we're not getting out of this unscathed. The Suriath vessel reacted quickly, its engines flaring as it attempted to maintain pursuit, but it couldn't match the Hyperion's sudden burst of speed. It was as if the ship was no longer subject to the same laws of physics that had governed it just moments before. And then, with a burst of energy that sent shockwaves through the ship, the sphere's power reached its peak. The energy from it expanded outward in a shockwave that sent the Suriath ship tumbling out of range. The Hyperion shot forward at breakneck speed, leaving their enemies in the dust. The ship coasted to a stop just outside the sphere's chamber, the last remnants of energy from the shockwave fading into the distance. Eva exhaled in relief, but she knew this wasn't over. The Suriath would return. And they would bring even greater power next time. Helios, Eva said, her voice soft but commanding, analyze that energy. Whatever just happened, we need to understand it. Now. Helios buzzed with activity, processing the data rapidly. The energy surge appears to be tied to the Keeper's technology. It's a defense mechanism, a response to hostile threats. The sphere acted to protect the ship from the Suriath vessel. Eva turned to face her crew. We have what we need, she said. But this is only the beginning. The Keeper's knowledge is out there waiting for us to unlock it. And the Suriath, they're not the only ones watching. We've made our move. Now we must be ready for whatever comes next. As the crew gathered around, preparing to enter the heart of the chamber and unlock the secrets within, Eva knew one thing for certain. Humanity's place in the universe was about to be rewritten. And whether they were ready or not, the true test had only just begun.